Okay, get ready to have your mind blown because today we're going deep on the Kardashev scale.
It's pretty amazing how it tries to actually, measure how advanced civilizations are out there in the universe.
Right, it's like this cosmic yardstick for, ranking civilizations, and it uses energy consumption as a way to, guess how advanced their tech is.
It really makes you wonder where we humans fit into all of this, doesn't it?
It totally does. It was thought up by this Russian astrophysicist, Nikolai Kardashev, back in 1964.
He basically looked up at the stars and wondered what it would take to become like a major force in the universe.
And so he came up with this system for classifying civilizations into, I guess you could say, levels. And it all comes down to how much energy they use.
So should we kick things off with the first level, the Type I civilizations?
Let's do it. A Type I civilization is, a lot of people call it like a planetary civilization.
Yeah, they've basically mastered their whole planet and every resource on it.
It's like they're the ultimate rulers of their planet, right?
Pretty much they've gone beyond just using energy to actually controlling it on a planetary scale.
Like, imagine being able to control the weather, stop earthquakes from happening, never having to worry about the power going out.
That's right. A Type I civilization would be so advanced that they could not only predict what's going to happen, but change it, to make sure everything's good for their people.
So, we're doing solar power, wind power, we're even tapping into the Earth's heat.
Right.
Are we getting close to being a Type I?
Well, we're getting there, but we're still at like a 0.73 on the Kardashev scale.
Okay, so we've got some work to do, but let's skip ahead for a second and talk about the big leagues, the Type II civilizations.
Now, this is where things get really interesting. A Type II civilization doesn't just use their planet's energy. They've learned how to use all the energy from their star.
Whoa, the entire star. That's like the engine of a whole solar system.
Exactly. And they're not just using some solar panels. We're talking about a whole other level of engineering,
Okay.
something like a Dyson sphere.
Wait, hold on. A Dyson sphere? Is that like a solid shell around a whole star?
Well, that's one idea, but there are others.
Right.
I mean, think about it. A Type II civilization could use stuff from anywhere in their solar system, asteroids, moons, even gas giants.
Yeah.
They could make a bunch of satellites to collect energy, or even like a network of rings around the star, all working together.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a bit more sense, but it still sounds incredibly difficult.
Oh, for sure. But a Type II civilization would probably have mastered things like nanotechnology, self-replicating machines, maybe even changing matter itself in ways we can't even imagine.
So instead of building stuff the way we do, they might be able to just rearrange atoms or manipulate energy fields to make these massive structures.
Exactly. And don't forget how much energy we're talking about. A Type II civilization would have something like 10 to the 26 power watts.
Whoa, that's a lot of zeros. It's hard to even imagine that much power.
To put it in perspective, that's about 10 billion times more than all the energy we use on Earth today.
So what could they actually do with all that power?
Well, for one, traveling between planets would be super easy.
Like, no more traffic jams or long flights?
Yeah, they could set up colonies on other planets and even terraform them to make them livable.
It'd be like, hey, I'm just popping over to Mars for the weekend. Anyone need anything?
Right. And that's just the start. With that much energy, they could probably mess with gravity, control fusion reactions, even make wormholes to travel instantly across huge distances.
Okay, I'm starting to get why Type II civilizations are like gods in science fiction.
Right. But hold on. Things get even crazier when we get to Type III civilizations.
Type 3. Okay, now we're going even further, beyond a single solar system.
Yeah, they become masters of a whole galaxy.
So we're talking about a civilization that can use energy from tons of stars, control black holes, maybe even manipulate space and time itself in their galaxy.
Think of them as like cosmic gardeners, shaping how stars and planets evolve.
Hold on, you mean they could be influencing how planets form and solar systems are born?
That's right.
That's incredible. But how could we ever see something like that happening?
It's a great question. And it makes us think outside the box. Astrophysicists are always looking for things in the universe that don't make sense. Things that we can't explain with what we know about physics.
So instead of listening for radio signals, we're looking for like giant engineering projects, like them moving stars around or building structures that span light years.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
For example, if a Type III civilization was using a black hole for energy, it might create a special signal that we could detect.
Oh.
Or if they're moving stars around, we might see unusual patterns in how they're moving.
So it's kind of like trying to spot the brushstrokes of a cosmic artist who's painting on a canvas the size of a galaxy.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe some of the things we see in the universe that we can't explain are actually signs of a Type 3 civilization at work. It's definitely possible.
That's pretty mind-blowing.
It is.
But for now, it's just a really exciting thought. So we've gone from, like, being able to use all the energy on a planet to mastering a whole galaxy.
It's pretty wild.
But let's come back down to Earth for a minute, our little 0.73 on the scale.
Ah, yes, our pale blue dot full of life and big dreams, but still just starting out, cosmically speaking.
It really makes you think, right? These super advanced civilizations we're talking about with their crazy tech, it's not just about what might be out there, but what we could become.
Exactly. The Kardashev scale isn't just about, putting aliens into categories. It's about understanding where intelligent life in the universe could go, and that includes us.
So what does it tell us about how we're doing so far? Are we on the right path?
Well, for one thing, it shows how much we've accomplished in a pretty short amount of time.
Right.
I mean, just think. A few centuries ago, we were using basic tools. Now we're splitting atoms, and we've gone from horses to spacecraft exploring other planets.
It's insane how far we've come.
It really is. But the scale also shows just how far we have to go compared to those Type 2 and Type 3 civilizations.
So we're like the little kids in the universe, eager to learn but still figuring things out.
A good way to put it, but even as those little kids, we're really good at solving problems and coming up with new ideas.
Yeah.
The fact that we can even think about these super advanced civilizations shows how much potential we have.
It's like we're getting a sneak peek at this amazing party happening in the universe, seeing incredible things, and imagining ourselves being there someday.
That's a great analogy, and that's what's so cool about the Kardashev scale. It encourages us to dream big, to push the limits of what we can imagine and what we know about science.
So let's be real. A type 2 or 3 civilization seems so far beyond us. What are the biggest things we need to do to get even a little closer?
Well, first, we need to make sure life on Earth is sustainable.
Okay.
A Type I civilization would have mastered their resources and really understand how their planet works.
So no more polluting our oceans, using up all our resources, or fighting wars over energy, right? We have to be responsible with our planet before we can even dream of using a star's power.
Absolutely. We also need to keep pushing the boundaries of science and technology.
Right.
Things like renewable energy, space exploration, and artificial intelligence are all really important steps toward becoming a Type I civilization.
And we can't forget about ethics. All the fancy technology in the world won't matter if we don't also improve our society, our values, and how we work together.
That's such an important point. A truly advanced civilization wouldn't just be about energy. It would be about wisdom, compassion, and creating a fair and sustainable society for everyone.
So it's not just about building better machines, it's about becoming better ourselves.
Exactly. And remember how we talked about other ways to classify civilizations besides energy?
Right, right.
What if some of them have gone beyond physical bodies altogether? Maybe they exist as pure consciousness, or have uploaded their minds into giant networks.
Whoa.
It opens up so many possibilities. Imagine civilizations that aren't limited by physical bodies or even the laws of physics as we know them.
So instead of building those Dyson spheres, they're creating like cosmic data centers, these huge networks of minds across galaxies.
That's the idea, and maybe those are the civilizations we should be looking for, the ones that have moved past energy and into realms of consciousness and information that we can't even grasp yet.
Wow. So how do we even start looking for something that's so different from how we understand life and intelligence?
It's a great question. Right now, our search for extraterrestrial intelligence, or SETI, is mainly focused on finding radio signals or something similar to our technology.
Right.
But what if advanced civilizations have moved past that kind of communication?
Yeah, like what if they're talking to each other using gravity or quantum entanglement or something?
Exactly. Or maybe they're using ways to communicate that seem like random noise to us because they're so advanced.
So we need to widen our search, think outside the box, and come up with new ways to spot the signs of really advanced civilizations.
Exactly. It's not just about the technology. It's about being curious and being open to the idea that there might be things out there we haven't even imagined yet.
Because the truth is, we don't know what we don't know, and when we're talking about the universe and the possibility of other life, that's a pretty humbling thought.
It really is, and it shows how important it is to be open-minded, to have a sense of wonder, and to respect the mysteries that we haven't solved yet.
Speaking of mysteries, why haven't we found any solid proof of these advanced civilizations yet? if they're out there, shouldn't we have seen something by now?
Ah, the Fermi paradox.
Yeah.
It's a question that's been bugging scientists and philosophers for a long time, and there are lots of possible explanations.
Okay, so let's talk about those. What are some of the main ideas about why we haven't met any aliens yet?
Well, one possibility is that we really are alone in the universe, at least in terms of intelligent life, that's as advanced as us.
So we're the first ones to reach this level of technology.
It's a lonely thought, but we can't rule it out. Another theory is that the distances between civilizations are just too big, and space travel is too hard for us to ever really meet.
So even if there are other civilizations, they're so far away that it's like we're living in different neighborhoods in a city that's the size of a galaxy.
Exactly. And then there's the idea that some civilizations might be hiding on purpose.
Like they don't want to be found.
Maybe. It could be for their own safety, or maybe they don't want to interfere with younger civilizations like ours.
So they're out there watching us like scientists studying a primitive tribe or something.
It's an interesting thought. And of course, there's always the chance that we're just not looking in the right places or with the right tools.
Right.
Maybe the signs are all around us, but we don't have the technology or the knowledge to see them yet.
It's like, if you lose your keys in the dark, you look where there's light. But what if our current understanding of science is just not bright enough to see the clues left by a Type 3 civilization?
That's a great point, and it highlights why it's so important to keep pushing the boundaries of science, develop new technologies, and keep learning more about the universe.
Because the more we learn about the universe, the more we realize how much we don't know.
Exactly, and maybe the answer to the Fermi paradox isn't some big secret or impossible barrier, but just that we're still pretty new to all of this and haven't figured it out yet.
So we've talked about all these incredible possibilities, these advanced civilizations on the Kardashev scale.
Right, from controlling a whole planet's energy to, like, ruling entire galaxies.
Exactly. But what if, and just hearing out for a second, what if we're the ones being discovered?
It's a question that people have been fascinated by for centuries. I mean, there's so many stories and movies about what would happen if we made contact with aliens.
Yeah, it's a wild thought, right? Like, imagine a giant spaceship disappears in the sky one day.
Right.
Or we get a message from some distant star system proving we're not alone in the universe.
It would completely change how we see ourselves.
Right.
It would challenge everything we think we know about our place in the universe and make us rethink our values, what's important to us, even reality itself.
I mean, it would be the biggest news ever. But, like, beyond the initial shock, what are the ethical things we need to consider when we think about meeting a super advanced civilization?
Well, one big concern is the potential for them to take advantage of us or even hurt us.
Yeah.
We've seen it happen over and over again on Earth. More advanced civilizations exploiting less developed ones,
Yeah.
often with terrible consequences.
It's like, they say history might not repeat itself, but it rhymes.
Right.
We can't just assume that aliens, even if they're really advanced, would be friendly or have our best interests in mind.
Exactly. We need to be careful and not assume they'll think like us.
Yeah.
Their motivations, ethics, their understanding of things like individual freedom or even life itself could be completely different from ours.
So it's not as simple as saying, welcome to Earth, let's share a pizza and swap tech.
Nah.
We have to be smart about it and have a plan, right?
Absolutely. There's actually a whole field of study called exoethics that looks at the ethical side of interacting with alien intelligence.
Wow, exoetics, that sounds pretty intense. What are some of the things they're thinking about?
Well, for one, how do we even talk to a civilization that might think and perceive the world completely differently than we do?
Yeah, it's like trying to have a conversation with a dolphin or a bat. We might be able to hear them, but figuring out what they mean is a whole other thing.
Exactly. And even if we can communicate, there's the issue of cultural exchange. Like, what do we tell them about ourselves?
Right.
What should we ask them? How do we avoid misunderstandings that could lead to conflict?
It's like going on a first date with someone from a totally different culture.
Yeah,
You want to make a good impression, but you also want to be yourself and respect their ways.
exactly.
But in this case, the stakes are way higher.
For sure. And then there's the question of technology. Should we be quick to embrace their advanced tech? Or could that backfire, maybe mess up our own progress or create new problems?
Right, it's like giving a smartphone to a toddler. It might be fun for a bit, but it could also cause some trouble.
Exactly. We need to think carefully about the good and bad that could come from using alien technology, especially if we don't really understand how it works or what could happen in the long run.
So it's about finding the right balance, right? We should be open to the possibilities of contact and what we could learn,
Of course.
but also be aware of the risks and be careful and humble about the whole thing.
Exactly. And I think the most important thing to remember is that we're not talking about just ideas here. We're talking about real beings with their own histories, cultures, hopes, and fears, just like us.
Yeah, it's easy to get lost in all the science and technology stuff.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it's about meeting another intelligent species, another form of consciousness in this vast universe. And that's a pretty amazing and humbling thought, no matter how it happens.
I couldn't agree more. And it reminds us that the ethics of contact go beyond just us. We need to think about what it means for all of humanity and any other civilizations we might encounter.
It's like realizing that we're not just playing in our own backyard anymore. We're on this cosmic stage, and what we do could affect the entire universe.
That's a big responsibility.
It is.
The choices we make, the messages we send, how we approach contact, it could all have huge consequences for generations to come.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the Kardashev scale, I think the biggest lesson is this. The universe is huge, full of mysteries and incredible things, but it also deserves our respect, our humility, and our ethical awareness.
I agree completely. The search for extraterrestrial intelligence isn't just about finding answers. It's about asking the right questions, learning more about ourselves and where we fit in the grand scheme of things, and trying to become a civilization that's ready to join the cosmic conversation.
And that's a journey worth taking. Thanks for joining us as we explored the Kardashev scale and the big questions it raises about humanity's future among the stars.
Keep looking up, keep exploring, and never stop wondering what's out there.